So, hello and welcome to Music, Meaning and Mental Health, episode 4. And I'm really excited to welcome my special guest today. This is Helen Rees. Helen's going to tell us a little bit about what she does in her professional work and how music has played a role in her life in just a second. But don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, do hit subscribe for more of these videos. And if you're listening or watching this elsewhere, don't forget to like or follow the page so that we can stay in contact and bring you more of these music, meaning and mental health discussions. So without further ado, please welcome Helen. And Helen, if you just give a brief introduction of what it is that you do and what role music plays in your life.
Sure. Hi. Thank you, Mark. It's really lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Helen Rees, and in my day job, I'm an executive assistant at a conservation charity, which runs a zoological park. But my real passion in life is music, and particularly singing. And my other business is I run singing for wellbeing workshops with groups of people. We started off with a group of executive assistants from around the world that are part of my PA network. We attend conferences all over the world with that group. And I was asked in 2016 to run a singing workshop with them. The conferences are nothing to do with music and singing at all. They're all brilliant executive assistants supporting executives and businesses all over the world. But as a well-being and networking and connecting activity, they wanted to set something up knowing that that was my background. And so I started doing that, and it just took off from there. And people just love the connection and the togetherness and the networking bond that taking part in an activity like that brings them. So if I go back to the beginning, I grew up in Berkshire. My mum is a singer and a pianist by hobby, worked as a production secretary at the BBC. And we grew up with music in the house my whole life. So there's a picture of me somewhere about 1 year old sitting at the piano and bashing the heck out of it, just loving life. And I come back to that a lot because it reminds me of the joy that music brings me and hopefully all the people that I work with in it. I took part in youth orchestras and choirs and all kinds of musical activities growing up. Very grateful to my parents for ferrying me around with my large bassoon or various bits of equipment to take part in all that kind of stuff. But those friendships that I made in those youth choirs particularly have lasted the whole of my life. And we still get together now for reunions and stuff 20, 30 years later. I don't count the numbers.
Perfect. But that was a question I was going to ask you a little bit later on, but you've brought it up now. So we're talking about the role that music played in your childhood, and whether your family or friends were music fans, and whether music played an effect in having some kind of communal role. You talked about playing in orchestras and choirs and how you guys have stayed in touch. You just talk about how music played a role in your childhood a little bit more. You mentioned bassoon. Did you have lessons as a child?
Yes, so I did. I started, let me get this the right way around. So I started learning the flute when I was 8. I'd been playing the piano by myself since I could sit up, as I mentioned. I didn't start lessons until I was 10, and I was one of those really annoying children who said, I don't need lessons, I can do this all by myself. And my mum, bless her, in a rare moment of patience, said, honestly, trust me, the lessons will help you go further because you get all the fingering right and the technique and all that stuff you know about. And she was right, of course. So I did flute lessons, I did piano lessons. We had a very good music department at the secondary school I was at. And that was really my kind of safe place. I didn't have a great time at school, let's put it that way. Didn't have lots of friends at school, hung out in the music department where there were my people in there. And I got the opportunity to learn the bassoon. We had a wind quintet at the school, and the bassoonist was in an older year group than the rest of the group. And they needed to find somebody who could kind of spend a few years working with that. And I played tenor recorder and various things. So my mum said, you'd be good at bassoon. Thanks, mum. But actually, it gave me lots of opportunities I wouldn't otherwise have had. So they needed bassoonists in the county youth orchestra. I think within a term of starting to learn that instrument, I was in the youth orchestra on the stage in the Royal Albert Hall playing Night on a Bare Mountain at the school's prom. That was like mind-blowingly terrifying, but a really good lesson in kind of fake it till you make it, because I knew about 7 or 8 notes at that point, and they were like, just play those when they come round and then learn some more notes and then play those. It was just mad.
That's my dream gig, amazing. The Royal Albert Hall. That's
my
the
God.
real bucket list gig.
Yeah. So amazing.
I played Carnegie Hall, which is really cool.
Oh, yes, I saw
York.
that on your profile. Yeah, amazing.
But Royal Albert Hall is the dream one.
Okay, I was going to say Carnegie Hall must be right up there.
Yeah,
We
that
can
was close.
trade comparison, like top trumps of venues or something. That would
I
be
was really interested in what you said before about how, and this is obviously what we try and talk, really interested in these discussions, about how you said in the music department, they were my kind of people. Can you
Yeah,
talk a
they're my
little bit
people.
about how music formed that bond between you and how, what kind of impact that had and how that sort of manifests itself?
Absolutely. I think for me, music had always been a thing that I felt I was good at, and I had a kind of confidence in myself with, and I wasn't self-confident otherwise. I was academically, I was okay, but as I said, I didn't have that many friends at school. I was pretty much the school square, not
I
very popular,
understand.
got picked on a lot and all that. And I couldn't find any connections in that. But in the music department, where, we had a lot of really talented people in the music department through the choirs and the orchestras that were there. That's really where I felt safe and where I felt like I belonged. And that, alongside with the music centre that I was part of, that was outside of school, but we used to go there Friday evenings, Saturday mornings was when we did youth choir and youth orchestra and stuff, provided by the local education authority for all of the schools in the area. And at that time, in the dizzy heights of the 1980s, it was free, a lot of it, which was amazing. And that doesn't happen anymore. That's a different campaign for a different day.
Understood.
But those people were just amazing. And from the music centre, particularly the girls' choir and the youth orchestra, those are still my friends. I chose not to stay at school into the sixth form. I think I would have been the only person doing A-level music if I'd stayed there. Did GCSE music there and all that kind of stuff. But I went on to sixth form college in Henley, and we had 16 or 17 of us doing A-level music. And that was amazing because you had so many more people to collaborate with, share ideas with, play together, all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of them had come from the music centre activities that I'd been part of up until that point as well. So that whole time, the move to sixth form college was life-changing for me. It was so much more positive. But that musical education outside of school and those musical networks and friends had carried with me through that. And I went on to study music at Southampton University. So I got my degree and then became an executive assistant at a zoo. Who knew? But music has then always been, I had a long soul searching at university and thinking about, lots of people assumed I would go into music as a profession. Largely people assume either teaching or performing or a combination of both. And I realized at that time that wasn't something I wanted to do for a living. I wanted to keep that love of music and not have to go out and have it pay the bills and me resent it for that. Sure. And for a long time that's happened, and I've kept it that way. And I've continued to lead choirs and be parts of things and sing and play in bands and all this kind of stuff for ages, and keep the day job as the day job. And it's all about people anyway, all of the things that I do about people. But recently, and in the last few years since I've been leading these choir workshops, I've realized that the joy that it brings me and the joy that it brings other people is bigger than just the kind of delivering music and earning money from doing it. It's much bigger than that. And actually, I'd be crazy not to do that if I have the opportunity to do it. And so at the moment, because my day job is kind of on part-time furlough, we're closed, we can't do everything we're normally doing, it's given me the opportunity to really build that side of what I do more and hopefully give it some energy and momentum to take it forward. So that's pretty exciting. So I'm moving away from that thing going, I'm not going to do it for a living. And I'm like, I'm going to do it for a bit of a living.
Yeah. Can you remember the first tape or CD or vinyl that you bought with your own money?
Oh, God.
And do you still own it?
Okay, another podcast episode for another day. Me and my hoarding habits. I do. The title of it will come back to me. It's a Madonna single from the mid-80s. I do still have it.
On what format?
7-inch vinyl.
Brilliant.
I have a little stack of 7-inch vinyls. Some of them are children's choir things that they did charity songs for Africa on the back of Live Aid and the Ethiopian stuff. There were schools that put together things. I had no idea at the time that would become the sort of project that I'd end up getting involved with in a slightly different way. But that's in my stack of 7-inch vinyls. I've got boxes of cassettes. I was an avid taper of the top 40 charts.
We've all been there.
Late 80s confession time. What was the name of the Madonna single? I can't remember.
Oh, that's gonna kick you now. But you were a Madonna fan.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never really stuck on one particular artist or a small number of artists. I love good songs, so they could be
Okay.
from anywhere. So I've been to, amazing kind of heavy metal gigs. I've been to rock gigs. I've been to all blues, and everything in between. And I keep coming back to, community choral music or gospel or so many different things. Big fan of
So,
Muse.
so
Yeah,
you're a
crazy.
big fan of music. So one of the
Yeah.
questions I was going to ask: do you have a favorite band or an artist that where their music is above all to you? And I always ask people this: it's a hard one. Could you describe that music to a fan who'd never heard it in 5 words or less?
If I have to land on one, I think I'd have to say Muse.
Okay. What is it about their music that you love?
It on first listening, it sounds like really big and really kind of just full on rock. But when you listen to it, there are orchestral elements in there. There's choral elements in there. The melodies and the harmonies are extraordinary. I love singing. One of the reasons I'm kind of called Harmony Helen is because I can't sing a tune. I have to sing the harmony. I have done all my life.
Guilty as charged. That's why I conduct choirs as well.
Right. So I went on tour with a couple of friends of mine from university, went busking around the country one summer and was singing along to the car radio. And that was it. She called me Harmony Helen. And
here's a confession for you. So I used to be a music lecturer, and the students used to call me Harmony Satan.
Oh. Interesting.
Because I always used to keep adding more and more difficult harmonies. And one day I walked into the classroom and there was a drawing of Ming the Merciless style on the whiteboard, except it was me.
Oh,
Harmony Satan.
Harmony Satan. Yeah. Oh, that's another level. Right. So now we've got top trumps of venues, and now we've got top trumps of nicknames.
That's Harmony Obsession, yeah.
Harmony Obsession. Yeah.
So the concept of a playlist shuffle, love it or hate it, and why?
Right now, I love it. So in my car, I'll have Spotify on, and it does those playlist shuffles. And we have those Echo Dot devices. I shan't mention her name because I'll set her off. And I quite like doing that as well. A few years ago, I didn't like it. I hated that. And I would binge listen to a couple of albums on repeat by a particular artist that I was listening to. I should actually give a big mention to Eliza Shaddad, who was on a Sky Arts documentary recently about the impact. I think it's called Culture Interrupted. It was about the impact of coronavirus on music and performing gigs. Right. She was amazing. And she's a singer and songwriter. And they played an excerpt of her singing one of her songs. And it just made me stop in my tracks. It's just beautiful, lyrical stuff. And I don't do it very often, but I went and downloaded it instantly, and I listened to that quite a lot on repeat to kind of learn the songs and kind of I listen to it when I go running, and I listen to it in the car. It's amazing. And now I've got a playlist that kind of starts with that and brings in other things that I wouldn't otherwise know or listen to, but actually turn into something I love as well.
So you allow Spotify to create playlists based on stuff that you like. And then it takes you down a rabbit hole of seeing if you find new stuff. So you don't curate your own playlists and allow it to shuffle through?
I haven't done yet. And that's possibly just a factor of time more than anything else at the moment. I should do that, because actually sometimes those kinds of, I write down songs that stick in my head that I think are going to work for a choir. Mm-hmm. And I go, oh, that would be really amazing. And I'll jot that down on a list on my phone or something, and I'll come back to it. And then before I know it, there's like 15 songs on it. What I should do is put that on a playlist and get that spinning up. But yeah,
I use playlists in that way for my choir. So I've got a choir called Sing United. We've got like 150 singers up here in the Northeast, and we do what we call music with meaning. So it's always like music on a particular theme that has a cause or some kind of purpose. And so I've got like just note documents with sort of selections of possible songs, but then when it comes to choosing the songs for a show, that becomes then a playlist of say 20 or 30 songs, and then I sort of just gradually start deleting songs until I feel like I've got a show.
Exactly. And they could be from all over, right? So eclectic list of from anywhere, show tunes, rock stuff.
But when it comes to music I want to listen to, I hate playlists and shuffles. Hate it.
Do you just want to listen to an album
band.
Yes.
No, a particular band.
Oh, I
want their catalogue in order of release.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just immerse myself in a particular band for a while.
Yeah.
Do you choose different styles of music for different situations? Thinking of you as an adult now, how do you use music is it to relax? Is it to work? Is it to focus? Is it to have on in the background while you do something else? Do you actively listen, or is it always in the background? How do you use music now?
So if I'm in the car, and that isn't happening very much at the moment, and I miss that, and I'm probably listening to less music as a result of it. But if I'm in the car, I want to sing, and that might be because I've had a tough day and I just want to let it out. So that's a good muse example. That'll come onto the Spotify. If I'm working, I actually can't have music on in the background because my brain wants to focus on it, and I find it really distracting. And there's some element of what's going on in there that's trying to write it down in notation. So I have perfect pitch. And so when I'm listening to music,
I identify.
is this another, right? Okay. So we're ticking them off the list, right?
It's relentless.
It is, isn't it? How many more can we find? So yeah, somewhere in my brain, as I'm listening to music, it's playing along as notation.
Yeah. My brain works in chords. So I'm going G7, E minor.
Yeah. I never got the hang of learning guitar. I wish I could, because pianos are a lot harder to lug around if you want to go and sing somewhere outdoors. But I think in just score notation pretty much. And I've done a lot of arranging and stuff. The friends of mine I was going around busking with, we had flute, violin and cello. We played at weddings. We just rock up in the high street somewhere and just busk. And I used to arrange everything from kind of Mozart quartets -1 to we did Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. That was pretty cool. Quite enjoyed doing that. Didn't know there was a flute solo in there, did you? But there is.
I've done it on piano many times.
Oh, there you go. We shall have to jam that sometime.
Yeah.
Where was I? Yes. So
just talking about how you use music and you don't feel like you can have it on in the background when you work.
Right. So it's in the car, that's easy because it's just kind of all consuming, sing, keep going, driving. I love that, especially on like longer journeys. If I'm working, then I can't really have it on. But if I'm doing stuff around the house, if we're, housework or decorating or just kind of being in the house and doing stuff, or in the garden or at the allotment, we've got an allotment as well, then I'll have music going. And I do listen to music when I'm running. I can't run without listening to music. It helps. I do have playlists for running actually, because the tempo is really important for that. So it helps me if I'm doing a really gentle run or I can't say fast because I don't run fast at all, but depending on what I'm doing.
You're going for a bit more.
Going for a bit more, then that's really good. And I find that really kind of invigorating, and it helps me with my breathing and with my running. And I get really self-conscious if I'm running without music.
Yeah.
I can just hear the kind of pounding of my feet and my heavy breathing, which is not good.
But when you do these, because we took up running a few years ago, and one of the things I've found most frustrating is that when you do like these public 5Ks or 10Ks, where it's like a race, for want of a better word, you're not allowed to have headphones in.
No.
I hate it.
No. Yeah.
Hate it.
Generally, I'm all right at an event like that because there's a crowd, and I'll just sing to something that's playing on my internal playlist in my head, perhaps.
Yeah.
So we have the Great South Run down here. It's 10 miles. I've done a couple of half marathons. Still got London Marathon in the diary. Should have been last April, is now this coming October.
So never the Great North Run?
I haven't made it up that far. I'd love to. I've had friends.
We've done it twice. It's quite an experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. I love stuff like that. I love the crowd and the whole atmosphere of it all. Fabulous.
It's really lovely how the role that music plays at the Great North Run, because bands set up along the way.
Love that. We have that
like vans and trucks on roundabouts, and there's just live bands playing all the way around. It's really cool.
We have that too in Portsmouth. Yeah, so we have there's a samba band that plays under the flyover, so they have this incredible acoustic. There's a bagpipes and marching band at one point, and then loads of kind of pub bands and local community rock bands. You'll stick up a gazebo outside the pub or on somebody's drive. I love all that stuff, and I'm always the crazy one near the back of the running field, but bopping away and giving it.
The next question I want to ask you is, and this sort of overlaps into that, is are you able to connect any particular pieces of music, to a particular time or person or place? I've had, when in previous these discussions, people have even ended up sort of almost smelling a place that they were, or imagine they could see a place in their head. Yeah. Just pick one or two little memories where a song reminds you of a certain place or person or time.
Yeah. Okay. So one I always come back to is "Wake Up Boo" by the Boo Radleys.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
All right. Every time I hear it, and you're right, it's not very often now, there was a whole phase in the 90s where it was on all
you
the
couldn't
time.
move for it.
Couldn't move for it. It reminds me of driving to work in the summer with the windows down and smelling summer, just like that warm, sunny summer's morning, and the sun is shining and it's just a beautiful day, and just driving along with country roads here up to work, which would have been, I don't know, it's a 20-minute, half an hour drive at the time. And every time I hear that song, that is a sunny summer morning in 1990 something, listening to that.
How music can do that.
Oh, it's amazing. And it makes me smile, makes me happy just thinking about it. And the other one is, some embarrassing songs, will be Chesney Hawkes, The One and Only.
Oh,
I'm showing my age now, it's embarrassing. 1990, as when I was in my first job working in the back room of a music shop in Maidenhead. And we sold all the little parts and spares and supplies for music instrument repairers, particularly woodwind music instrument repairers. So little pads and springs and clips and bits and sections and mouthpieces and stuff. And this is in the days before proper internet. So people used to write or phone in with their orders, send in a check. And I'd be there processing all these orders. And we had this little radio up on the windowsill playing radio station stuff. And that song comes on and I still remember all the words. And that is me working at that place at that time. It was like my first kind of proper job. There's a couple that always stick out. And then particular pieces of choir music that we've sung on tour in different places.
Are you conscious of how music makes you feel physically and mentally? Are you aware of an effect that it has on you? So it perhaps, because sometimes people feel that they can't listen to a kind of music because they feel it is having an effect on them. Are you conscious of how this effect can happen? Yeah,
I think so. I certainly personally, when songs have those associations of those memories for me, I can put myself back in that place. I don't have songs, I don't think, that really upset me or have a real kind of emotional kind of overwhelm kind of feeling. I think I've been very fortunate. I haven't had a lot of tragedy in my life, and I know that when it happens, music is going to be a massive, overwhelming part of that. But at the moment, I don't have anything that I kind of can't listen to because it will just tip me over the edge. But I'm very aware of how stuff like that makes me feel. And when we, with the executive assistants choir that I was talking about, we had a session last night. And we sang through one of the songs that we performed at the gala dinner. I think it was the event in 2017. We haven't sung it regularly for a little while. And I chucked it in because my laptop wouldn't play the one I wanted to. You know how you get tech issues occasionally. I was like, we'll sing this one. This one's working. And we sang it through. And then the comments were all coming up going, I remember when we sang this in the Shard. I remember that event and this happened and that happened. And I can see it coming through other people, such happy memories of that time when we were together and doing that. And when we're actually performing something like that, I do get really emotional at the end. And the video that we recorded after a series of sessions last year when we took this conference event virtual for the first time, and I was really kind of apprehensive about how successful that would be as a virtual activity. First time we'd kind of done it. Oh my God, the community spirit around it. They got together, they were practicing online with each other, they were holding each other accountable and checking in and buddying up to do their little recordings. And we put it together. This is me from The Greatest Showman as a video. My son helped me produce it. And we played it as like the closing thing at the end of the keynote, at the end of the conference. And even though we were all in our own rooms all around the world watching in on a screen like this, you could feel the emotion of it. And there was not a dry eye in the house. And we're all just sitting there in our own rooms in floods of tears because it was such a big thing.
I completely identify with it.
Yeah. They were, assistants and speakers and people, they come in at the beginning of the first session, wouldn't have said boo to a goose, absolutely terrified out of their boots, shaking. And in the course of that kind of 10 weeks, we got them to a point where they were so confident they were even willing to record themselves singing on their own.
Yep.
And they hadn't heard it as a whole with everybody else singing until the reveal of the video. Normally, of course, in a room when you do this, everyone's hearing everybody together. Absolutely. We had more people take part who maybe wouldn't have been confident enough to do that in a room with other people, but they were on their own, so it was okay. And then they came out of their shells and did that, and it sounded absolutely amazing.
I completely identify because with my work with Sing United, I would never have believed until we were forced to do rehearsals virtually I would never have believed how, if you stripped away the musical element of what we do, it still has as much power as it does. I know, because Sing United is always like really sort of predicated on community spirit, and we do a lot of fundraising, we set up our own foundation, and it's very much a collective. That family bond is very, very strong.
Yeah.
But I would never have believed that, because my professional life is so much reliant on fixing things musically and rehearsing people and improving them and going, no, that harmony was wrong and that should have been an E, and all the kind of musical aspect that I do without thinking, take that away because on a Zoom rehearsal, we can't hear each other. And yet watching 100 people sing on the screen when you can't hear them is still really emotional. And I would never have believed that until I watched it happen. We've been doing it for nearly a year now.
Yeah.
And it's still remarkable to watch. We're still doing the virtual rehearsals every week. We're still giving them new songs to sing. They're still getting emotional about it. The comments, like you say, are flying on the screen.
I was going to say, do they come to you and tell you those lovely stories about how they've made new friendships or rekindled old ones, or kind of found new hope in something, or it's helped them be confident in another area of their life that they didn't realize it would have that impact on? It's incredible. It's just,
and that's why I've become so passionate about this idea of music to help people improve their mental health. I think that's why I've ended up having these chats with people. It's just, I always say to people that the power is separate from whether you're any good at this or not.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter whether you're any good at this or not. That is like a separate conversation. Over here are all the benefits music can bring you.
Yes, exactly.
Regardless of whether you have any skill at this or not. That almost doesn't matter. It's a bonus.
Yes, and it's such a big part of the early conversation about it. If you talk to people about, this is what I do, and everyone goes, oh no, we don't sing. Oh, I know, I will break my windows, or my husband will divorce me, or whatever, scare the cat, all that, every single time. And they all think I've never heard that before. It's every time. Or you go into a workplace and they're like, oh, I don't think that's for us. We make widgets, or we do this, and you're just like, it's got nothing to, you don't need to be able to read music. You don't need to think you can do it or have any experience of it at all. If you can use your voice, you can sing. And it's just breaking that mental block, that whole imposter syndrome thing of, I can't do this. It's just not, I just can't.
That's what I wanted to be the final question, actually. You brought it up. So let's have the classic question. Do you really think anyone can sing?
Yes, absolutely. Little anecdote on this one. I married a Welshman, right? And the theory goes, right, that all Welshmen can sing. I married one of the few Welshmen who at that time couldn't really hold a tune. We have been married 23 years and he's getting there. So I'm not promising that I can help people sing in tune, bang on the money, day one. But what I help people do is understand that it is possible, that you can stop telling yourself the story that you've carried through your whole life, possibly from when a parent or a teacher or somebody told you weren't very good at it.
Yep.
My dad is another example. He sang in the church choir when he was a little boy, but once his voice broke, one of the church choir leaders told him he was rubbish, he couldn't do it anymore, and he never sang again. And he would have loved to have played the drums, but my mum won't let him. It's a whole nother story. But he loves music, and he's, in a family of my sister and I and my mum and everybody, all musicians. My dad, not so much, but he loves music. And what is it without an audience and an appreciation, right? But we get him singing, and same with my husband. And he loves music and he enjoys music and how it makes him feel. And that's more important than how close he is to being on tune. But it's coming. So we're singing in the car and I'm like, oh, this is really good. It comes with time. And it's just about getting over that block you've got in your head that tells you can't do it.
Absolutely.
It's actually about, do you enjoy doing it? And who's measuring how close it is to in tune? We made these guides, these measures of pitch, not arbitrarily, but it's all kind of science and frequencies and all that kind of stuff, right? But somebody decided what sounded nice based on that kind of natural harmonic stuff. But it doesn't matter. And if other people have been telling you you're no good at it, you kind of don't need to listen. It's hard not to listen to that, and we all take everything really personally, right? But it's about giving yourself permission to just have a go and enjoy it. And those groups that I work with are kind of evidence of that, because they'll come in all, I can't do it. I'm like, it's okay. Just imagine for a minute that you could tell yourself you might be able to, or that you can't do it yet. And if
Yeah.
someone could give you a safe space to do it in, and there's no judgment and no risk and nothing, the walls aren't going to fall in, nothing bad is going to happen, just do it and enjoy it for how it makes you feel.
Absolutely. So much synergy between your messages and what I tell people with regards to piano and singing as well. That's great. Thank you so much for your time, Helen. Really useful, and enjoyed having your connection on LinkedIn and Clubhouse and having this chat. So thank you for sharing your contribution to music, meaning, and mental health. And if anyone wants to connect with you and find out more about what you do, where's the best place for them to go?
Best place to find me is through my link tree, which you should see a little QR code up in the screen somewhere. You can find me on LinkedIn, Helen Rees or Harmony Helen, all of those places. Yes, on Clubhouse now too. And I know we're going to talk about that some more sometime soon as well. Thank you so much, Helen. It's been brilliant. Thank you.